Welcome back to Relative Recovery, the podcast on chronic illness, healing, and recovery unfiltered. We are back this week and we are talking about a topic that I think is going to be really relevant to everyone. If it's your first time here, welcome. Please be sure to subscribe so that you will get that email in your inbox with every post of ours. And if you're coming back, thank you for being here. Please share this with your friends, family, anyone you think might be interested. We really appreciate the support. So, Lauren, you posted recently about a really interesting article that's been making the rounds online and maybe scaring some of our family members. So, what's the deal with melatonin and sleep? Is this something that we should be taking? I know years ago, I was taking melatonin. This was like the recommended easy over the counter thing to do if you're not sleeping great. Um, is that still the recommendation? Is there something else we should be doing?
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing with that study is it was a correlational study. So, of course, the media took it and ran with it. The researchers were just presenting evidence at a conference from the American Heart Association, and it was a really big study. It was over 130,000 adults, and they did a chart review. And what they found was that people who took melatonin were 90% had a 90% higher risk of developing heart failure over the 5-year period following. That is a crazy statistic. Like, that's terrifying, right?
Yeah,
But then we have to take a step back and we have to remember that correlation is not causation. So this was a correlational study. They were just looking for predictive factors. And really what the nuts and bolts of this study is that people who chronically don't sleep, people who have insomnia, are more likely to have these negative health risks, right? And so it's not that taking melatonin causes these health problems. It's that people who don't sleep are more likely to take melatonin
right.
and therefore are more likely to have these negative health outcomes. And so it was a really exciting and sensationalized story because
Right.
we love to do those kinds of things. But really, what we want to get down to today is how do I understand sleep and how do I improve my sleep so that I can try to mitigate my risks for these long term health outcomes?
Right. Okay. So it's the lack of sleep that's causing the potential heart issues and these other scary things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So then what are the risks of not sleeping well and not sleeping enough?
Yeah. So in general, with insomnia or sleeping hours, they sort of delineate them into buckets, right? So 7 to 8 hours or more, 6 hours, 5 hours. So that's where the risks of motor vehicle accident percentages come from. So the less I sleep, you have a significant increase in risk of motor vehicle accident, which could lead
Mhm.
to death, right? So that's a cause of morbidity and mortality, death and major injury. So if we don't get at least that 7 hour mark, we become a public health risk to others around us.
Mm,
For our own personal health risks, when we start to have chronic insomnia for prolonged periods of time, this is not you didn't sleep well yesterday. Like last night, I
right.
didn't get a great night of sleep because my 12-pound dog somehow was able to shake the bed and startle me awake 400 times, right? So she needs to go in her crate. That's called environmental insomnia, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're
Sure.
talking about months and months, years long, that sort of thing. So we have a higher risk of depression and anxiety. If you've ever not slept well, you didn't have a great mood the next day. Now
True.
compound that by months and years. And if that gets bad enough, it can actually lead to increase in suicidal ideation or suicidal action, right? We
Wow.
can have a decrease in our daily function. So our thinking, our memory, our reaction time, all of those things will go down. Your school performance, your work performance.
Hmm.
Those are more short-term health risks, right? Then if we get into these long-term health risks, what happens way down the road? That's where we get into these cardiovascular or heart disease problems. So conditions like
Mm,
AFib, which is where your heart flutters really, really fast and you might need them to go
sure.
in and kind of cook the node in your heart. You
Oh
can have
gosh.
heart disease, you can have heart attacks, stroke. So it becomes a really big ordeal later on
Yeah.
down the road. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. And that is scary. So I know you're saying this is over many years. This is not just like a night or a week of like bad sleep, right? So how does this then relate to other chronic illnesses?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a twofold, right? Like, first of all, having chronic illness and chronically not sleeping well is going to compound itself.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, after things like a head injury or a flu, if we don't sleep well, we don't have that same immune system response. The cleanup chemicals can't go into your brain and sort of pull out all that extra byproduct. So that'll be kind of a short-term effect. But long term, it starts to impact your immune function and your inflammatory responses inside of your body because you have this
Mm,
heightened cortisol response, right? You're not getting into that healing sleep place to actually have repair. You're going to have a decrease in your quality of life. So now, people who have chronic illnesses and are not sleeping well, they're not getting into that healing mode to actually fix the underlying pathology. And they're
oh
going to have a
wow.
decrease in quality of life. So not only do they have headaches, and brain
Yeah.
fog and difficulty concentrating and mood related challenges, but those are exacerbated by the impacts of just not sleeping all by itself.
Mm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so what's the science behind this?
Some of it is just the way that the world is today, right? We are biologically still 1,000 years ago, if you believe in evolution.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So technology has evolved so fast that our biology has not caught up. And we are just inundated with blue light and flashing lights and noise and stress
Sure.
and all these environmental factors that are going to dysregulate our nervous system. And we need to be able to get into that parasympathetic drive, that rest and digest drive at night in order
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to go to sleep.
Mm,
So there may not be anything broken inside of you. It might just be that your nervous system is being dysregulated by your daily life and you can't go live in the woods or in a village somewhere 500 years ago, right? And so we have to find ways to modify our environment or to at least understand what's happening so that we can
mm-hmm.
start to have these interrupters and we can start to break some of these cycles.
Okay. So, yeah, so our sleep is affected by all these things, our internal our internal systems, our other illnesses that we may be managing more or less, right? And then also these environmental factors that we just haven't quite yet evolved to combat in our sleeping hours. We haven't learned to like block those out, and so our brains are still sort of reacting as that sort of what's
Yeah.
happening. We're still reacting to those stimuli that we get like all throughout the day and probably right up until we go to sleep, right?
Yeah. And then there's other pieces of why people don't sleep, right? So there's actually quite a bit to unpack just in this part of the conversation alone. So
Sure.
if I historically don't sleep well, so I have a pattern of not sleeping well, my biology starts to change. How my nighttime clock turns
Mm,
on actually
yeah.
starts to change. So that's why you'll hear things like they'll say to expose yourself to the sun, or people will buy these lamps to expose themselves to in the morning. And
Yeah.
so you're trying to reset your actual biology. So human beings are predictive networks, right?
Mm,
We
mm-hmm.
do everything based on prediction, past experiences. That's how our brain knows how to release the right hormones at the right time or the right neurotransmitters at the right time. And so if
Yeah.
I become conditioned to not sleep, if I build poor sleep associations to fall back asleep, I now perceive that I have this problem that I can't control when I've actually created some of that inadvertently by myself.
Interesting. Okay.
So if you
So,
take that, sorry, but if you, so if we, if you think about that in another way, so like you've got friends who have small babies at this point, right?
yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a friend, I promise you, who has said to you, my baby can't sleep unless I hold the pacifier in their mouth. I spend all night
Right,
leaning
right,
over the
right.
edge of their bed and putting the pacifier in their mouth. My baby
Totally.
can't nap. It's not, they are biologically incapable of napping unless I'm holding them, right? No, that's not true. And there's tons of great sleep classes that you can take. But as a person who had a bad sleeper and is a bad sleeper, I invested a lot of time and energy into sleep training. And so I've learned an absorbent amount about sleep. And with babies, their sleep cycle is really short. It's like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on where they are in their aging cycle. And their sleep association is what you do to teach them
Mm-hmm.
to fall back asleep.
Aw, yeah.
So if your friend is holding a pacifier in their mouth, they have conditioned their baby to only be able to fall
Right.
asleep when the pacifier's in their mouth. But that's not what they perceive. And who would ever want to think they did that?
Right.
They
And,
perceive, and their reality and the evidence that they are shown from this cyclical relationship that they've built is that their baby can only sleep if a pacifier
right.
is in their mouth. But it's a sleep
Mm,
association.
right.
That's it.
Right. And you don't want to think that you did it or caused it, but you also don't want to like then take away that source of comfort either, I imagine. So it's equally hard
Yeah.
um
I
to
mean,
like
Dr. Becky would call that like being selfish for the long run. So, what she
uh-huh.
means by that is like that temporary discomfort is you would be selfish in providing a temporary discomfort because in the long run, it's better for their long-term health.
Sure, sure.
Right. And again, there's tons of information out there about how to sleep train, but knowing that you are biologically the same as you were when you were like you're just a bundle of nerves,
Yeah.
right? But you
Yeah.
have a frontal lobe. Like a baby's not sitting there thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I can only sleep because mom is holding this pacifier. Like I should
Right.
probably try to wean out of my pacifier so that like I can sleep independently." That is not happening. But you as an adult with a fully developed frontal lobe, now that you're in your 30s, right? You can learn and then you can change your behavior, and nobody's
Right.
doing any of these things on purpose, right? I'm not playing solitaire on my phone at 2 a.m. to fall back asleep on purpose because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best sleep association a person can ever have.
Right. It's
Right.
comforting, the same as the pacifier.
Yes, you're getting that positive reinforcement, but you're actually getting a positive short-term relief and causing
Right.
a long-term harm. And so once you understand that, you can start to move through that pain point of like, okay, I'm not going to pick up solitaire. I'm not going to do X, whatever my negative sleep association is. I'm going to take the 2 weeks it takes to break this cycle, and I'm going to just force myself to move through that pain point for my long-term health.
Yeah. So that was my next question. So basically, you have to sleep train yourself the same way you would sleep train your baby.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, your sleep cycle is longer. Your sleep cycle is about an hour and a half to 2 hours in general. And
Okay.
you wake up periodically during the night. That's biologically appropriate because,
Okay.
again, like we are still 500, 1,000 years ago. And so you want to wake up and look around and make sure your tent's not on fire, whatever it is, right? And so you are not always aware of it, but you're
Yeah.
coming in and out of your sleep cycles throughout the night.
Mm,
And sometimes we wake up fully, go to the
right.
bathroom, whatever it is, and we want to take the pressure off of sleep. They say this again a lot in kids' sleep training. I don't know why we don't use these very similar terms for adults. It's the
Yeah.
same, right? So they talk about taking the pressure off. So if you've ever woken up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, it's 4 o'clock, and that means I have 2 more hours. If I fall asleep for 2 more hours, I can get at least six. Like all of a
Oh my
sudden you've
gosh.
got this whole thing going, right? You're in the
Yeah.
sympathetic drive. You're not going to fall asleep.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. I've so been there. It's so stressful.
Yeah, we all have. But if you can sit there and go, okay, I woke up. It must have been at the end of my sleep cycle. That's appropriate.
Yeah.
What do I do to go back to sleep? Ideally, I've built breathing exercises or I've built meditation. Ideally, I've built a positive health behavior, a health association to get my body back into that fall back asleep mode is the ideal
Right.
situation.
Right. And if it doesn't work right away, you shouldn't necessarily give up on that
Right.
because because one night of not sleeping is not the end of the world, right? It's just part of the process, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, people are built, people can be pretty resilient, right? I mean, think about like a new mom. It's not the greatest situation on earth. Like you wouldn't want to have to make life-changing decisions for other people in that moment with the lack of sleep, but people
Totally.
recover. They come out of that
Yeah.
situational insomnia and they recover,
Yeah.
right? And so, I mean, we had a kiddo who didn't sleep really. I mean, he
Yeah.
was a purple crier. He screamed 20 to 23 hours a day. Like it was torture, right? They do that to people in Navy SEAL training to prepare them for prisoner of war camp. Okay. So if you've ever had a crier, a real crier, my heart goes out to you and I understand. But you'll also invest a lot in sleep training to try to get a little bit of reprieve.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel because both of your sleep will be so much better and clinically informed.
Yeah. And I mean, we recovered. Like you come out of it, right? It
Yeah.
was a rough, the purple crying lasts for about 3 to 4 months and then it magically disappears. And then, by 6 months, everybody's sleeping through the night. Thank goodness. Thank you, taking care of babies. And then, your brain starts to recover and it starts to heal. So we know that human beings can go through situational insomnia and we know that we can
Yeah.
recover. It's just not letting that spiral into 3 years of not sleeping or 20, 30 years of not sleeping sort of thing.
Right. So, okay. So transitioning then from that situational insomnia to like real true chronic insomnia, um, what are the recommendations for people who are dealing with this for years on end? Um, what should they look into? Can they, can they sort of try to implement some of these solutions themselves? Is there help out there? What should people do?
Well, let's take that a couple different ways. So let's start first by talking about environmental insomnia. So that could be a crying
Okay.
baby, right? But it could also be your partner. So when I went for my sleep study, because I had something called central apneas after my brain injury. My brain didn't tell me to breathe. It wasn't that I had an obstructive or my throat would close. It was that my brain didn't tell me to breathe. And so I dozed off very quickly driving my car, and that was enough perceived severity for me to figure out what was going on. Nobody got hurt, everything was fine, but it was scary. And so when I went for my sleep apnea testing, the provider there said to me, "You'd be amazed at the number of people who come here to sleep and have the best night of sleep of their lives." Now, if you've ever been asleep to a sleep apnea test, you know that that can't possibly be true. There's jelly in your hair, there's electrodes all
Oh
over
my
your body.
gosh.
But what he was talking about is the people where their partner is the problem.
Oh, yep.
So the wife usually comes in for a sleep study and they don't have sleep apnea. What they have is a partner who snores.
Who probably does have sleep apnea.
Who probably as they get older does have sleep apnea. And so what is happening in your environment when you're sleeping? There's actually a lot of books coming out about something that they call a bed divorce, which makes it sound really negative,
Right.
but it was actually due to the Industrial Revolution. There's a lot of societal reasons why people started sleeping in the same room. But even if you watch like I Love Lucy, right? They have the two separate
Yeah,
beds and they would push them together. I just aged myself, but that's okay. Nobility slept in separate bed chambers, right?
of
And
course.
so
Yeah.
as people started to live in smaller homes or as people changed in societal expectations, people started sleeping in the same bed, right? But that's not necessarily the best thing for your sleep. So I'm not advocating for everybody to get a bigger house and put themselves in separate rooms. I'm just saying that if you start to understand why things are challenging, some of it is our societal expectations on us that
Right.
aren't necessarily the best thing for our health. And if you think about my risk of stroke goes up because my partner is snoring, you might start to think about some of these environmental triggers a little bit
Right.
differently and have some good, honest conversations with your partner.
Yeah, I have a friend who does that. They started sleeping separately when one or the other, both of them was sick. And they just never went back because they both slept so much better that way and they're so much happier.
Yeah.
Um, that's so interesting.
And you
You
can
know,
still have all the other parts of a relationship
right, right. They're
and
great.
go to a separate place, right? So people kind of,
Right.
because it's our societal, it's our perceived social norm, is that you have to sleep in the same bed. People feel a lot of feelings about it, which is not the
Yeah.
same as facts. Your feelings are fine and they're valid, but they are not facts, right? And so if we start to think like, oh, I care about my partner, I love my partner, I want my
Yep.
partner to be healthy and be in a good mood so that they're a good partner during the day. Is this the thing I want to hang my hat on? And it may not be an option for you, but like tonight, Ellie's getting crated because she woke me up all night. So she loses bed
Ellie the
privileges.
dog
Ellie's the
for
dog,
for our
right?
new audience members here.
I can't crate Scott, but I can crate Ellie. So,
We can't?
but I can move, right? So I can move to a different space
Yeah.
when I wake up in the middle of the night, sort of thing. So that's sort of environmental insomnia and making sure that we're really not blaming ourselves, right? like Jeannie was sharing earlier, blaming herself for being a bad sleeper, and it turns out that's not really what the problem was, and that's
Yeah.
that's tale as old as time. I've had plenty of patients say the same thing, and then we get our partner the healthcare that they need. The second thing would be getting into cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So let's say it's not environmental insomnia, it's actually you and your biology, and maybe they are one and the same because you haven't slept for so long. This has actually become an internal problem and an external problem. So, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is an evidence based intervention, and it includes sleep hygiene, but it also includes other facets.
So great. Yeah, that's super interesting. So I've never heard of CBT for insomnia. Um, is this its own therapy? Is it joined with other types of therapy? How, is this a common type of therapy where you can find someone where you are generally?
Yeah, so it has evidence based. It's usually done by like a licensed social worker or a counselor. There's
Okay.
actually a really cool free app called CBTI Coach. It was made by the
Okay.
government. It's not the sexiest app you'll ever see, but the knowledge is there, and that's what that's what really matters.
Okay.
And it'll teach you about sleep. So I'm just kind of cherry picking a few interesting facts, but it will teach you about sleep and help you take that pressure off and help you start to make different choices and intervene in different ways so that you can get back to sleep.
Okay.
Um, when we look at cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, the effects are actually really good. So if you go to a good provider, you can look up sleep clinics, things like that. What they show is that after a course of treatment, the average effects are maintained for about 6 months, and that's long enough to build a true habit. It also shows that we can improve our sleep latency, how long it takes to fall asleep,
Hmm.
by about 30 minutes. And so we
Wow.
can start to see that people are falling asleep faster. We can see that people are falling asleep for longer. So people are actually getting that extra half an hour of volume of sleep just by doing some sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And then,
Wow.
of course, you're going to have correlational effects, right? It's not going to be causation, but you'll have correlational effects to improvement in long term health outcomes, quality of life
Yeah.
measures, right? Just because you're sleeping better.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So what can people expect from CBT for insomnia?
Part of it's going to be that normal sleep hygiene. So, what am I doing before bed? Am I having caffeine too late in the day? Am I
Mm,
taking a nap? So, especially for people with chronic illness, am I napping after 3 p.m.? So I'm so tired, I have to go to sleep. I get that
right.
nap in, and then I'm wired tired and I can't fall asleep at night. And
Sure.
so I'm in this vicious cycle. So, one of the things we'll
Sure.
do for patients with concussion or long COVID or things like that is we'll take away their afternoon nap and ask them to move it earlier or shorten the duration until they
Hmm.
find that ability to sleep at night because we want to consolidate their sleep into the evenings.
Okay.
We'll learn about the hormonal response that you get. So you actually can condition your body to release awake hormones when you arrive at your bed. That's not psychologically, I'm afraid of going to sleep or I'm worried about
Hmm.
my sleep. It's actually the hormones that your body releases. And so if you've ever, as a chronically bad sleeper, I'm falling asleep on the couch and I get up to brush my teeth and I do my evening routine and then I'm wide awake,
Right. Yep.
right? Oh, I don't want to get up and go to bed because I know I'm going to be wide awake once I get there.
Yeah.
Because brushing my teeth and doing the things I need to do is triggering my memory centers and my pattern recognition centers that it's time to wake up. I've actually created this hormonal response in my body when it's the very last thing that I could have ever wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. That's so wild.
So you have to condition yourself that the bed is for sleep, right? So they say bed is for adult activities and sleep, and that's it. You don't want to be watching TV or on your phone or
Hmm.
reading, things like that. If you're a good sleeper, don't take offense to that. You can do whatever you want. But for the rest of us, okay, don't be like, I'm the one person who listened to this for some reason has perfect sleep, and those things work for me. But otherwise, you want to get up and go to a different location. So let's say I'm laying in bed for about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not watching the clock, just generally speaking. I actually want to get up and go. Maybe you sit on the couch and you listen to a podcast until you become physically drowsy.
Mm.
And then you would get up and go back to your bed. And so, what you're actually doing
Yeah.
is you're reconditioning a hormonal state to your bed.
Wow. Okay.
So you're habituating yourself,
Right.
right?
Just
And it's
just
going
like
to
the
be a
baby.
rough 2 weeks. It takes about 2 weeks to reset the cycle.
Okay. So you
Hmm.
got to stay with it.
Got to stay with it. Because it can be really disruptive, they recommend that you work with a cognitive behavioral therapist for insomnia when you
Okay.
do like. So you want to work with like a legit specialist, depending on how bad your sleep is and how little sleep. But if you end up getting only 4 or 5 hours a night, you are a major public health risk on the road driving. So you want to make sure that we're doing this in a safe way, but also it's really important because of the negative health implications. So we also want to
Right.
prioritize it. But let's make sure we all stay safe and we take care of one another.
Right. So I mean, even if you're not a driver, let's just say that's probably the biggest public health risk, but there's other risks out there and you know, to yourself and others, I'm sure. We want to
Maybe
make
don't make
sure.
any major financial decisions while you're
Don't
working
make
on your
major financial.
CBTI.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe don't like power up the lawnmower. I don't know.
But what's really cool is that CBTI is actually comparable or even better than sleeping medication,
Oh, okay.
right? So if
Yeah,
I
we
have a
haven't really
patient
touched on.
who's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, we haven't really touched on medication and how that plays in.
Yeah, so the actual long-term outcomes of sleep aids is very poor.
Hmm.
So big pharma don't come after me, but the reality is that sleep aids actually facilitate insomnia over time because they
Yeah,
mask our hormonal responses and they create dependencies.
that
So
makes sense.
just doing a couple weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is as effective, if not more effective, than taking a sleep aid for 6 years.
Right. Amazing. Great, because you're getting to the root or the source of the issue and
Hmm.
rewiring those associations.
And your brain creates a chemical dependency over time for sleep
Sure.
aids. And among the worst would actually be like a acetaminophen PM kind of medicine
Ooh, yeah, okay.
because you can do that short term, that's fine, but you don't want to be doing medications like that long term
Hmm.
because they are they have essentially like a Benadryl type component to them. So the thing that's in them that makes you fall asleep is not great, and you also have the other medication compound that's in it that we don't want to be taking long term if we don't need it. So it would
Hmm.
be better to go to your physician and get an actual safe prescription short term to break your sleep cycle than it would be to medicate with those types of for prolonged periods of time.
Okay. That's good to know. And then where does, just to go back to the beginning of the conversation, where does melatonin fit in terms of sleep aids? I know it's not the same as a sleep aid.
Yeah, so melatonin is safe. I mean, people during COVID were taking like 2 and 3 times the daily recommended value. So melatonin during COVID got like kind of this negative wave. Don't take 6 or 12 milligrams of melatonin. Like that's ridiculous, right? Take what the label says to take or talk to your physician.
Sure.
But other than that, melatonin is relatively safe. Some people have nightmares, then you're not a candidate. Or I
Mm,
don't know, have your nightmares
yeah.
because it's worth it to sleep, right? But other than that, most people can take it. There's one called 5-HTP, which is a similar action, but it works on a different part of the neurotransmitter. There's improving your gut health. So your serotonin is predominantly made inside of your gut. It's actually not made in your
Mm.
brain. And then
Oh,
it
wow.
goes to your brain. So if I have chronic gut issues, I'm not going to create the hormone that's a precursor to my sleepy hormone or my feel good hormones.
Mm.
So if I start to treat my gut, can I start to see an improvement in my sleep?
Oh, wow. Okay. And so is that something that people should, uh, take long term? Should they take it while they're doing the CBT? Um, d- you know, does it interfere at all, or it's just really kind of a little boost?
Yeah, I mean, I can't recommend that people take anything like
No,
long term, but I
no,
mean, I
we're
would
not
talk to your
recommending
doctor,
anything.
but in general, I mean, it's pretty benign in the world of things that people do.
Yeah.
Another one that you could take long term, again, unless you have some weird health stuff, but magnesium glycinate is actually a really good
Hmm.
one. There's L-theanine, so there's also some natural supplements that you can take that will give you other health benefits in addition to sleep that may be a little bit safer to take long term. But when you're talking about 3 milligrams of melatonin, there's not a ton of evidence that there's any danger to that. It's when you get into higher dosages. But I would say, think about like, can I do that for a little bit of time, break my sleep cycle? Maybe I'm on a trip. Maybe I'm going to Europe and I need to reset my sleep cycle for there. So I'm going to take
Okay.
melatonin situationally the first 2, 3 days. And when I get home, the first 2, 3 days. But the
Right.
goal should really be that you go to sleep because you hormonally are able to go to sleep.
Right. Okay. So it's not affecting those hormone cycles, but really we want to kind of accomplish the same effect on our own through behavior change.
Exactly. Because then you don't have to take
Yeah.
anything.
And that's that's the ideal, right?
But human behavior is really hard to change. So again, kind of just knowing what it is, knowing that you're normal is a huge piece, right? Like you're not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to sleep 8 hours straight. That's a myth of the Industrial Revolution. Human beings for all
Yeah.
of time did not sleep in these random chunks. Not everybody's circadian rhythm is set up to sleep at night, right?
Mm.
So human beings used to serve different purposes in the tribe. We used to have night shift of people who made sure we were safe from different parts, right? And so we kind of have decided that work hours are 9 to 5 or 9 to 6
Sure.
nowadays. And we've kind of decided that sleep has to happen at this very specific time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's your biology. So you're not broken. You just don't always fit inside of society's little box. And you may or may
Hmm.
not be able to change that, but you can at least not internalize that there's something wrong with you and then take steps to help you fit in that box a little bit better.
Yeah. That's such a helpful reminder. All right.
Well, thanks to everyone for tuning in, and I hope you got some little nuggets that you can take and start to practice. And don't forget about the CBTI Coach app. And don't worry that today you didn't sleep well, right?
Right.
Just worry about how am I going to be sleeping in 2 weeks, a month. Worry more about what can I start to do for my little incremental changes to start to move in a positive direction. And take a look at your environment as well, and make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success the best that we possibly can.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope that was helpful. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Get us in your inbox every week or so. We're really trying to pick up the pace here with our posting. If this was helpful to you, please go ahead and share it with anybody you know that might benefit as well. And stay tuned for some really exciting stuff coming up. Lauren's going to be at the Big PT conference in Anaheim next week. She's got a couple of really exciting talks, and we're going to be getting her big takeaways from that conference when she gets back. So we're really looking forward to that. And everyone, stay well. Hang in there.